Hello guys, so I'm finally doing the interlacing text tutorial that people have been asking for forever, and I'm doing it in iOS 11 and the Procreate 4 beta, but this will work in the current version as well. But if you want to find out more about the beta that I'm currently testing, you can watch my last video where I explain all of the new features. And I decided to do this in the beta version because the interface is the newer one, so once the update is on, this will be still pretty much up to date. So what I did here is I opened up my browser and went to typekit.com, which is a font service from Adobe, which you get for free in your Creative Cloud subscription. So it's not basic. So it's basically not free, but the website is free. And testing fonts is free as well. So you can insert whatever text you like in here and see previews of fonts. And this is great if you're like me and are very bad at drawing letters and hand lettering, because I do more calligraphy, so actually having to draw a letter is really hard for me. So I usually go to Typekit and use those letters as a base to do my lettering. So I found a font that I like. I'm going to write bold today, and I'm going to use this bold one. So what I do then is take a screenshot, and because I'm working with a new one, I can just copy that, hit done, and go into Procreate. I'm going to slide down with 3 fingers and paste. I'm just going to hit the select tool, swipe down with 3 fingers again to get the quick menu, and now we have actually cut and paste, and that will insert it into a new layer. If you're using the older version, you have to cut it and then paste it in 2 steps, but that's okay. So then I will just increase the size. And this might look blurry, but because we will actually just use this as a guide, that's okay. So I have this in the background, and then I'm going to use my Mono Smooth brush to trace those letters. And I'm just trying to make this look as neat as possible, but I'm allowed to make this look hand lettered because it is actually made by hand. So I'm not going to go hyper perfectionist on this. I'm really just tracing it pretty freely. So I'm just working on the outlines right now. And once I have those, I'm using the color drop feature to just fill them in and then just do some cleanup. And I'm just going to repeat those steps for all of the letters, and then I'll be back with the next step. So now that that's complete, I can actually get rid of my reference layer here, and now I'm going to go and do my lettering. And I usually like to go with a more bouncy, more modern look because it's easier to place your letters, respecting the reference, the bolder text that you want to wrap around if you have more freedom with your script. So if you go and do more of a traditional script, there's less way to modify your letters. So I'm gonna go and write love on top of this, and the brush I'm using is the More V brush. It's also a free brush you can get on my website. And I'm gonna go and actually try and plan this a little bit. So I'll talk in a second. Okay, so the way I placed my letters here was respecting the white space. So I'm just gonna go and do a little bit of annotations here since you can't see my hands. And okay, so as you can see, the way you can wrap a text is basically you can, let me go and decrease the opacity here so you can actually see the overlaps. The places you can remove are basically all of those overlaps. But you cannot go and freely remove the overlaps. You have to make sure that once you you have to remove the overlaps in an organic way. So basically you can not go and remove all of that part and then have suddenly all of this part showing, because there is no way that at this point suddenly the letter, the line can appear. So lines can only appear and disappear if they have to go through a white space. So as you can see, so this is a section that cannot suddenly, part of it cannot appear or disappear. But as you can see with this, here we can actually separate those two out. So this is a separate line and this is a separate line. So I can actually have all of this gone and all of this showing because they're two separate lines. So that works organically. So that is a possibility that can be done. So you have to consider that. Do not have lines suddenly appear out of nowhere, basically. The other thing is you cannot obstruct the main shape of the letter too much. So if I go and actually remove all of this, not a lot of the letter would be showing. And I feel like if I just had this part showing and all of this gone, this would look more like an E than an L. So I want to keep this main shape. So what I can remove is actually this part. So I will be removing that. I will be removing all of that. And I might actually go, I'm going to keep that part because I usually like to go over and under. So if I go here over, I can go under here, under here. So basically all of that line is behind, and then have all of this on top. Then same for the O. If this goes behind, all of this has to go behind too. So I have to keep this on the front because I need the full O to, I need all of this to show. So I cannot remove that, but I can most definitely remove that. And then I'm probably going to keep that just because I want the loop to wrap around the letter. So have this behind and then the rest of the loop in front. Then I can remove all of that because we don't need it to show that this is an O. Same for the V. I feel like I'm gonna remove that part, keep this, and then if I keep this, I'm gonna keep this as well and remove this. Now for the E, this is very important. Again, you cannot remove that part, mostly because it is not, you cannot remove this part because it really is the main thing that makes an E an E. So an E is the cross line and the loop in the loop. So you cannot remove that. Now what I'm seeing here is that I cannot just show this. I actually have to keep it all because I have no space outside in my white space. So I cannot do that. But I can actually go and move my letter just a little bit. let's make it a little bit bigger, like this. And then we can actually change this a little bit. We can actually remove that loop without destructing the E, I believe, because we see enough of the loop here. We'll try that. I'm not sure if it will work out. And then I'm actually going to rewrite the E. I feel like I need to rewrite this. So I'm going to go and undo, because I like the rest of it smaller better. So I'm going to undo that and rewrite the E. I'm actually going to rewrite it all, just trying to remain in the same shape. If I refine the color, because that's the color I kind of like. I'm gonna, why did that not pick the color how I want it to? No. Okay, so make this lower in opacity and rewrite it. But considering okay, so if I look at this now, you can see that because this is now in the white space, I can actually wrap it a little bit more. So I can actually go and remove this, for example. So now that I know where I want to remove, this is where I can start erasing. And you can erase using the eraser. Now in Procreate 4, there's a mask option, and I will probably use the mask. I'm just going to speed up this process because it takes quite a while, and then I will be back with the next step. Okay, so the basic wrapping is done now, but what really makes this effect so cool is having shadows that make this a little bit more realistic. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to do the shadow of the script on the bold letters. So I'm going to duplicate this layer. I'm actually going to select the mask and hit clear, and then I'm going to undo that. I should have not selected the mask, but inverted the mask, which I did not do. If you use the erasing tool, you do not have to do this. But I hit clear. So now I have a layer that just is all of the text that you see, which is the same if I would have used the eraser, but it is a little bit easier to work with the mask. So now I'm going to move this down and to the right, and I'm going to alpha lock this. The way you alpha lock is if you use 2 fingers and swipe to the right, it will alpha lock, and in Procreate 4 you can tap it and hit alpha lock. I'm going to fill this with black, like this. I can see that I moved it down quite a bit. Like that, maybe, yeah. Now I'm gonna go and do not motion blur, but Gaussian blur. First remove alpha lock, otherwise it will not blur. Okay, so I'm gonna blur like this, and I'm gonna move that behind my red text, like that, and then I'm gonna actually select my bold text and reselect and invert the selection and clear that, so it's really just the shadow of the letters. And I'm gonna go and erase all of the stuff that I do not need, like these things here. We'll work on these separately. So basically everything where the letters are behind and have a shadow, like here. I'm gonna go and fix that really. Gonna use the soft airbrush to erase this, so I do not destroy the shadow that I actually need. Like that. And here. All right, and then I'm going to lower the opacity on that. Now what I like to do is just add a little bit of shadow that the line itself throws on itself. So basically I'm going to go in with the airbrush. It's a default brush, the soft airbrush, and black on a new layer. I'm going to select my script and just paint in some shadows. Use the hard brush again. Make it smaller. So basically every line that's in front of the other throws a shadow. So this is not really lots to explain. Just gonna do that. So that's that, and I'm just gonna lower the opacity on that as well. And then I can go and do all of these shadows that the bold text throws onto my text. So I'm gonna go and select just the text again. I'm creating a new layer, and then just go and draw those in. And because I'm working with the mask, I'm actually drawing on the mask as well, but we'll fix that in a second. Okay, so select this. I'm gonna actually select my mask and clear it, which did not work as I wanted to. Undo. Again, I need to invert my mask. As you can see, I'm still figuring this out. So this is where I paint it. Select, invert, and clear. Now we have it. So then I'm just gonna add a shadow to the bold text. I'm gonna alpha lock it and fill with black and remove alpha lock and move it down and to the right just a little bit and add some Gaussian blur. Like this. So now what you can do is you can add some highlights, which I like doing because I think it makes it look more interesting. And for that, I'm going to use the light brush from the Luminance set, which is a free default brush. And for the bold text, I'm just gonna add the highlight like this. Make sure you're doing this behind your script, like that. Then I'm gonna select my text and apply Gaussian blur onto this, just like this. Tap this and add screen as your layer mode, which will make it look more glowy. Like that. And then we can do the same thing on our text. For that, I'm going to use the same brush, but I'm going to make it a little bit, I'm going to use it smaller. I'm actually going to place that behind all of my shadows. Select my text again, add some Gaussian blur, set layer mode to add, lower the opacity, and that's it. It's really not that difficult to do, but you still have any questions, feel free to ask and I'll try to answer it. All right, so that's it, and I'll see you next time.